Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you to I would like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. Now, this video will be continuing on the PvP course. Now, this is going to be the not so humble beginnings because obviously it's piracy and playing in unfair ways against players. So, this is how to start off being a pirate. How you work up your courage and how you work out where you should be and what you can do in terms of gameplay. Now, the first one was on how you actually started off by attacking the most defenseless players, which is miners. Now, the second thing that you're going to do is you are going to attack players who really can't fight back in appropriate ways against your PvP builds. As I said in one of my previous videos, PvE players can't really fight PvP players properly because the PvP players have the majority of the advantages. Now, when a player is ratting in a low sec, they're normally ratting to get onto those level 6s and level 7 at maximum, which do spawn in the low secs if they manage to drive up a base enough. Now, when they are doing these, it actually opens up the chance for you to jump in and interfere with their combat. Now, at the moment, a lot of players have mastered the art of fighting anomalies. However, some players like to play it rough and fast. Now, for those who play it rough and fast, this is where you are going to get cornered and where you are going to get hit the hardest. Now, for those who are playing against anomalies in PvE, sorry, they don't really set their stuff to auto lockback and auto fire. So when you jump into a low sec and you want to fight these players, there are certain protocols that need to be used in order to fight properly. Number one, you want to remove all speed bonuses. 90% of PvE play happens using speed tanking. So the first thing you're going to do is run a stasis webifier. The second item you're going to run is a warp disruptor. Now the reason for the warp disruptor is purely to hold them from jumping out of the activity. Most PvE players will choose to jump rather than fight. It is their number one reaction. Sometimes they do fight back, sometimes they don't. And it all depends on what type of team they are, whether they do play against other players. So this is how you're going to go about if you are doing PvP against such PvE players. When you enter into a sector, you notice the levels of the anomalies within the sector. For example, you've got a level 6 base and you've got level 7s and level 5s. So you know that for a fact whoever is trying to bring things up will go after the level 5s. So you go to a large level 5. Now remember, they want to eliminate all small levels so that the bigger levels have a chance of spawning inquisitors and scouts. So you go towards one of those, and when they jump in, you now follow them into the battle, and instead of fighting the enemies, you position yourself on the outer rim and attack the player. Now, when it comes to this whole situation, you don't use your standard overview. You actually go and you open it into ships. Now, in the ships, you normally go down to the players. If you aren't using this overview, you're going to use a custom and you're going to target neutrals and hostiles. Now, that is something which I have gone over in my basics for your combat. That is how to set up the bar on the side. Now, that bar will play a massive role in how you combat. Now, at this point, you've already been able to establish how to attack a player and how to catch a player. Now, you don't go straight in and start attacking or lock onto the player. What you first do is you set approach path. Now, your auto orbit is disabled when you're fighting them because auto orbit is actually going to make it more difficult for you to actually fight them. You need to know what type of weapons they are running. Now, once you have established that your weapon has the range or your weapon has the superior fire, you approach in towards the player at your optimal range and you lock and fire as fast as possible. So you click focus fire on that ship. Now, focus fire activates all weapons and fires immediately. Immediately once the lock is complete. So what you are going to do at this point is you are now going to start orbiting. You keep your orbit at that optimal or at the advanced range so that they hit you less. Remember, you want to keep your nice speed so that you don't get taken out quickly. For this purpose, it is best to use the highest possible rank ship to take out the lowest possible rank ship. So if you're going hunting for PvE enemies and you know that they're running around in battle cruisers, you're either going to run a faction cruiser or a battle cruiser yourself. If you had a cyclone which is meant for PvP versus Cyclone meant for PvE. The difference in combat style will be the fact that you have the Warp Core Disruptor on your rig, and in your low slots, the type of weapons that you have to deploy to stabilize your build. Remember, they are going to use something like a Norse, and generally in that low slot, they've got something like a shield extender to give them a little bit of tankiness when they're taking on mission solo, or when they're taking it on in a group and they want to keep the fire on themselves. So all these things have to be taken into account. So the first thing you do is make sure you're at that optimal range for your warp, for your stasis webifiers, and you lock them. So that's going to be about 14.8 kilometers or 15 kilometers, depending on your SP and your type of warp core, not warp core, sorry, your stasis webifier. Now, once you got them webified, they're never going to close the range to get in range of you, because provided you have the right fittings, you'll be able to out orbit them all the time. Now, once you have this orbit at the higher range, or if you both have the same weapon, let's say you're both running cyclones and you're both running long range missiles, you are now going to activate your ballistics control and your tracking computer. Now, those are two things on your list, and on your other list is going to be um, sorry, I'm making a mistake. Your shield booster and your adaptive shield hardener. Now, or is it reactive? Adaptive, yeah, the red one. Sorry, I'm making a slight mistake. But nonetheless, with this here, you now have the optimal amount of power on that rig. It's now giving you more firepower and enough defense. And to balance it all out, what you're going to have is a thruster. Now, the thruster or afterburner is going to help you keep a range on the player. Now, most players will run something like the three shielding equipments. That's the booster, hardener, and extender, with an afterburner, and on the last slot maybe a ballistics control or another type of invulnerability field or something like that there for the armor, or the other invulnerability field for the ship, the yellow one, which is the reactive. Now, with all of this put on, they have a little bit more tankiness to their ship, but that is just to allow them to play against PvE enemies. You still have multiple advantages. Your mid rig on your battle cruiser will be equipped with stasis webifiers, at least two. They will be equipped with something like a Norse and a neutralizer, or a Norse and two webifiers. So they can't really pull you down in terms of pace. But what you can do to them that is really going to panic them is you can disrupt them. Now, what you can also do on your rig is one webifier, one disruptor, and one neutralizer. Now, the neutralizer is actually going to hit a massive portion of the energy down on the enemy ship, and if you last long enough in combat, the enemy ship will simply drop out of combat due to reaching the time limit on the actual fight. Now, this isn't the most honorable way to play. As I said, it's the not so honorable beginnings. That is basically the title of the series. And what you're going to do at this point is you are just going to let your fire go against this enemy. Now, the first thing they're going to try to do is escape your orbit. But once you have them in a webify, escaping orbit is quite difficult. If they can manage to out webify you, it's going to be a cat and mouse every time coming in and out of range. Now, if you are at the range of a stasis webifier, the best weapon generally is going to be a rapid missile launcher. That's because of its extended range and the fact that it won't take you too close to the enemy where everybody can just stasis webify you. So this is what you want for your advantage. Now, when you start hitting this enemy shield, you need to make sure that it's taking damage. So you're going to open fire as fast as possible, regardless what configuration you are running with. And now you're going to hammer into that shield. Now, as the shield starts to hammer down and starts to fall, you have to keep recovering your shield. And at any point, if you feel that you aren't capable of winning, you generally jump out. Now, this is just a scenario where it's one-on-one, and you will find a lot of one-on-one in the low sacks. However, if you're in a null sack, you're going to find small teams of players playing together, and you need to plot quick, fast attacks that you can run away from immediately when the attack is over. So you're going to attack frigates. Remember, frigates may be very fast, so double webifire and a warp disruptor. That's what you do to a frigate so that it loses all of its advantage of taking less damage. and you hit it as fast as possible with as much firepower. And once it goes down, you now have the advantage of running away from the combat and returning when they least expect you. So you wait for a wave to end and then you jump back in and you kill the next player and the next player until you've literally wiped out the entire team. And that is how you make good ISK. Now, when I was talking about rig loot, I don't mean loot as in it drops the rigs. I mean that it drops the bounty. And the bounty for the rig, if I'm correct, is the market value. That is in PvP. So you're receiving the PvP value of the rig for the ship. And that is where you make most of your ISK. Now, fighting in terms of PvP against anomalies, you are going to go after high end ships. That's Caracal Navy issues. You're going to go after all of the Navy issue ships, your Punishers, your assault frigates, your higher end destroyers, covert ops. All of these ships are the ships you want to chase after. You're also going to chase your support vessels. And last but not least, you're going to chase the battle cruisers. Now, if you're going up against battle cruisers, a faction cruiser is much stronger than most of the battle cruisers, and you will win 5 times out of 10. Now, I'm saying 5 times out of 10 because it's a 50-50 chance. I'm not saying that you're going to always lose or you're going to always win. It's just that it's the luck of how well you fight. Now, with everything going into a PvP battle against PvE players, most PvE players with good ships are running at least 400 to 2 billion ISK worth of fittings and rigs. So the more you damage and the more you destroy, the higher the bounty is going to be. That is the loot in direct ISK. And the loot which drops is also going to be more expensive than the regular ship loot. Now, some players do run around with MK5, that's because they're restarting. And those aren't the real players you want to attack all the time. You're only getting like 8 million of each destruction of their ships. It is quite a bit, but this is one of the reasons why PvP is so rewarding. Now, this is how simple it is to rack in low sec. And this is the reason why you need to know what type of PvP you play best. Now, part of the PvP PvE arena is the option of doing something even less honorable than the not so honorable beginnings to pirating. And that is gate camping low sec routes. Now, this is one of the fastest ways to make ISK because PvE players generally AFK a lot when it comes to the game. And you're going to need at least 2 or 3 players to help you warp disrupt players who are jumping through. And when this here is being practiced, there are several areas on the map that cut through nullsec, so you can go at any one of these and you can set up gate camps on any one of the routes. The most traveled route is Syndicate, the 10 gates going through. That's one of the best places to set up a camp and take out players. It's best to do it in numbers instead of solo, which is one of the reasons why I'm not covering it as content for starting off with piracy. Now, this is one of the ways to fight against PvE players, and 90% of the time you don't get a fight back because they are AFK completely or they are offline completely and they are in autopilot going through the null sec because the warnings were identical to the low sec. So that is basically how it goes for the attacking position in PvP. Now, what can you do as a PvE player? Basically, there's nothing you can do. If they disrupt you, you just have to make sure that you beat them in terms of raw fire. If you can actually manage to impact them badly enough that it looks like they may stand a chance of losing, they must probably give up the hold on you and run away. That's a one-on-one combat general strategy. It just shows who has the better combat strategy to their advantage. Now, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on the PvP, and there's going to be tons more coming out, so keep tuned to my channel. And subscribe and help me reach my goal of 250 subscribers by the end of the third month of gameplay. Thank you all. Goodbye.